Episode of the Living Resilient podcast, we're going to be speaking about making mistakes. I believe we've all made mistakes in the past. Our guest today is going to share a point in his career where he made a terrible mistake which almost cost him, or which actually cost him his career. So Bolade, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Been a pleasure being.
So first of all, tell us about who you are when you're not a pharmacist, when you're not managing people. Your LinkedIn profile, you said you manage a team of about five
Yeah.
people. Apart from all that achievement, professional achievement, who would you say Bolade is? How
Yeah.
would you describe yourself?
Well, shall I start by saying thank you so much for having me on here. It's really good to be in Scotland. So who is Bolade? Bolade is a husband. So I'm married to a lovely lady. She loves me, I believe. I'm a dad to two
But
wonderful
how to
kids.
say yes?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
She does. Yeah.
yeah. I'm a dad. So my daughter is 11. She starts secondary school in September. So a big season for us. And my son is 8. He's going to be 9 soon.
She's getting to the teenage years, so get ready.
Indeed. Apart from all of that, I'm a son as well. So so my mom is still alive, gratefully. She's in her 70s now. But yeah, and I'm a brother to some wonderful siblings. So that's my life. That's me. But apart from all of that, I'm a Christian, and that informs my ideology. So I see the lens of what I do through Christianity. So yes, so I probably say that's a good summary of who I am. Yeah.
How has your background formed who you are? So how has your background, your upbringing formed your ideologies and, the way you see things, the way you see life?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So I grew up in Nigeria until I was 18. I am now in my mid-40s. So I have spent most of my life in the UK than I did in Nigeria.
Okay.
In Nigeria, I grew up in a Christian household, so we would wake up in the morning, do the morning prayer. I think that would be pretty much standard for most people who grew up in my kind of background until I left Nigeria at 18. But I'll probably say my journey in terms of knowing myself wasn't there until I left home and I had my own independence. So my ideology is really fostered through the lens of my Christian background, which built some morals in me. And then, obviously, when I moved to the UK, then I started questioning some stuff. So I grew up in Yoruba culture in Nigeria. So when I lived in Nigeria, I saw a lot of things through the cultural lens I grew up in. And then coming to the UK, which is a completely different culture. And then I migrated at a time where I was actually growing, trying to form myself. So I was questioning the things I grew up within my culture and in a new culture now, seeing things in a different lens. So I think those two experiences has formed who I am and my ideology. So picking bits from the two cultures, which are fantastic and are very rich, and making my own. That's the core value. The core value of who I am is from my Yoruba culture through the lens of Christianity and the UK culture as well through the lens of Christianity. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think you're absolutely right when you say we grew up with our own culture and then we come over here and we start to see things differently.
Yeah.
We start to ask certain questions, and that I think it all helps us as we grow and learn and, develop as well.
Indeed. Yeah.
So have you always, you're a pharmacist, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Was that what you wanted to do since you were young, or did you come here and you changed your mind? I mean, what have you always wanted to become? Let me put it that way, growing up.
Yes.
Pharmacist.
So, no, I have never wanted to be
Dreamt of a
exactly. I probably will. I'll tell you my story. So in Nigeria, I told you I grew up in Nigeria till I was 18. And in Nigeria, it's very common then when you become 18, instead of doing A levels, you do something called JAMB, which is this massive exam where everybody does. And so I have two brothers. Both of them, so I did sciences and I could have done anything I wanted to do. I was that kind of kid. I could apply myself to anything really. So my eldest brother did physiotherapy. So when I applied for JAMB, I was like, but deep down, I knew I was more kind of like that engineering kind of person. I'm quite handy. I like to make stuff. But then I applied for physiotherapy, did the JAMB, and I didn't get the scores, My other brother, at this point, he's a pharmacist as well, by the way.
Oh,
And
okay.
he was already in uni in Nigeria studying pharmacy. And my prince suggested, why don't you think about pharmacy? So I thought, okay, all right, I would, it was suggested. And at the time I was about to write my second jam, the opportunity came to come to the UK to study pharmacy.
Oh,
And it was a
okay.
foundation in pharmacy. So it wasn't A levels. So it was a case of you go to college, you do a foundation in pharmacy. If you score a high enough score, you then go into university. So that's been my path. So I came to the UK, did foundation in pharmacy. Lucky enough, I got the scores I needed and then did my degree in pharmacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you became a pharmacist.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
how long have you been working as a pharmacist?
Believe it or not, 18 years. I've been working as a pharmacist for
since-
18 years.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Right from the time you arrived UK?
Correct. So I did my degree, which was 4 years doing the degree. And then after pharmacy in the UK, you do something called an internship. We call it a pre-reg year, which is you just working. So I did that. Then after that, I started working as a pharmacist. So I worked as a relief pharmacist, we call it, where you become a year kind of like just working with another pharmacist. And then after that year, I became a pharmacy manager. And so in my career, I've managed different pharmacies in the UK. So go with different shops and manage them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've always enjoyed working as a pharmacist? You've never had any regrets whatsoever?
Well, the profession is difficult. Difficult in the sense that obviously so in pharmacy there are three main branches of pharmacy. There's community pharmacy, which is your high street chemist. You have people that work in hospital, people that work in the industry, and now people work in GP surgeries. Okay. So I work in community pharmacy. So it's a mix of retailing, which is you're managing businesses, but then there's a clinical aspect of it as well, because you're looking at prescription, checking prescriptions, and then there's a managerial aspect of it as well, because you have colleagues you work with and you're managing them as well. So I love that branch of pharmacy, probably because of the business side of it, because it's more the kind of person I am. I've had my challenges in pharmacy, but I love the career, and yeah, it's benefited me so much. Yeah.
So you say you've had your challenges.
Yes.
What sort of challenges have you had?
Well, the challenge that's brought me to this podcast, should I say? So what sort of challenge? Okay, so I made a massive error in my career. Like I said before, I'm a manager. You manage stores and things like that. And with that job role, you have targets you have to meet. You have things you have to, you have goals you have to meet, and all of these targets feed into how the shop is behaving, how you're managing your colleagues, how the business is performing. And there was a key target I wasn't meeting in one of the shops I was managing, and then I fiddled with the results, and as a result, that situation blew up so much that I lost my job through that. It was a really difficult time, because it wasn't just a case of I lost my job. There was a public shame that came from it as well.
So,
yes.
pause.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Rewind.
Okay.
So you had a target
Yes.
to meet.
Yes. Yeah.
And how did the feeling with the results come in? Was it, I think you said a survey. Did you mention a survey?
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. So the way it works, so the particular element of this result has to be a customer feedback.
Customer
yeah,
feedback.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you have so many customers feedback you have to submit, or the shop has to submit, and then that feeds it into the performance of the shop.
Okay.
So with the way the system worked at the time, you give the survey to customers, and they would then go home and get it done. But then the demographic of the customers I was looking at, they didn't have the abilities to do the system in place where the company wanted it. But then I stupidly took the matters into my own hand, because I was doing everything right, all grains and stuff like that. I was like, this is the one thing that wasn't working to my favor. So I silly me took the results, the feedback, and I did it as though I was the customer. So it got to a point where, from a shop that was scoring 0 in this particular aspect of it, started having high numbers. Exactly.
Numbers. Okay.
So my area manager, sort of a smart woman, thought something is not right here. Called me and she said, Bolade, I think there's something going on in your shop. As the manager, she said, can you please investigate what's going on and get back to me and let me know? I think somebody's failing with the result. She hung up the phone. Immediately, I knew I was the one. I couldn't, obviously I knew this was a big thing. I had to investigate and then report back to my area manager. So at that point, I then rang my wife. I still remember it clearly. I was still in the shop. I rang my wife and I was like, "Oh, I've just had a phone call. I've done X, Y, Z. I apologized to her to say I did this.
But you haven't
Yeah.
told us why you did it. So,
Oh, yeah.
what were you going through at that point? I do believe that when people make mistakes, there's something usually going on, maybe in their lives, some pressure, background. So, why, if I ask, why do you think you did that?
Correct. I
In
mean,
hindsight.
you've said it. For me, anyway, in this particular incident, it was because of the pressure. So this element of the feedback, it was one of those things that the company I worked for at the time, every Friday, you always get a text message to say, you've done, you've not had feedback coming to the store. And because you need feed that into the way people saw the store. It was number one, it was the pressure I was getting to deliver the result. And number two, I think the pressure from within as well, as though, there's something that is, not making me present myself in the way I want to. So the pressure came from outside, definitely. And then there was a pressure from within, from
Internally.
internal.
Yeah. How long had you started working before this incident?
Yeah, very good question. So I think I was already, I think I was 3 years into being a pharmacist.
So still very early
It's
days.
just still very early days, exactly. Still very early days. But then at this point, I've managed a shop, and I've been with the company. So I started working with the company as a student, and then I became a pharmacist with them, and then I was a manager. So I've been with the company a number of years. But then as a pharmacist, I've been with the company 3 years, and I've been a manager for about 3 years as well. But this particular shop, I've only been there 6 months or so, because I moved from one area of the UK to another, and then I joined this new area. So 6 months into the store, I think. Yeah.
So what happened?
Yes.
So continue the story.
Yes. So what happened?
Just trying to get a bit of context
No.
around
Yes.
that. Okay.
So and then at this point in my life as well, I've just been married. So 6 months into my marriage as well.
Oh, when this happened?
When this happened, exactly. Yeah. And my wife at this point was a student, so I was the only one earning in the family. So I was the main earner, the only earner. So I rang her up and I said, this is what I've done. And I'm really sorry, so I apologized to her as well. She was like, okay, cool. So she was like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm just going to ring her back and confess, because I did it. There's no point trying to investigate what shouldn't be investigated. So then, so I rang her and I said, just so you know, I did this. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done it. And that was it, So she's like, "Oh, thank you so much for getting back to us. That's very honest of you." And yes,
you thought that was the end.
I thought that was the end of it, But she did say you're going to hear from us, So so I knew there was something coming, but I didn't know what was coming. Exactly, yeah, that was it, yeah. Yes, and then the next day went to work as normal. And then she came in. I can't remember how long I've started my shift at this point. I came with an assistant, and I said, "Oh, Bolade, you are suspended from work." So
are you serious?
Yeah,
the very next day.
The very next day. So that was it. She was like, "Yeah, because of what you've done and your confession." Pack your bags and we'll let you know. And that was it, really. So I went, packed my bags, and then left the shop. And that was the last time I entered that shop in terms of being an employee of the company. So from that point, it was letters, disciplinary hearings. I had to go for formal hearings to say, why did you do this? I said, I was under pressure. I showed them the evidence. They're like, okay, thank you so much. And then we'll get back to you a week later. A week later, I got a letter coming to say, my employment has been terminated. And so at this point, when all of this was happening, it was just myself, my wife, and I think I told one other person to say this was happening, because it's something. It's like you've done all this hard work. So like I said to you, I came to the UK as an international student. There's been a lot of investment in you to become who you are, and then all of a sudden you've lost the job that you've trained for within 3 years of you training. So it was like, how would I even tell my mother? How would I tell my siblings that I've done this? But yeah, so when I lost the job, I rang and I told my family, and I said, this is what happened. Like, why are you just telling us? We could have supported you through this. And so obviously at this point, they were like, oh, just appeal. So I appealed this decision, went to the head office after the appeal, and they upheld the decision. So that was it, really. So my family was there at this point to support me through, and they still thought I was silly for not sharing it with them to start with. But yeah, so that was how it started, yeah, and that was the start of it.
So,
yeah.
oh, that's just the start.
That's just the start of it.
I was thinking we were already halfway.
Yeah.
So that's just the start. You left the job.
Yes.
Obviously, no more income. You just married. This is the UK. So what are we saying? Rent, bills.
All of those, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So how did you manage all that?
Yeah, it's very good. So with the for you to be a pharmacist in the UK, so there's one thing being a pharmacy graduate. So when you become a pharmacy graduate, you just have your degree. You can work anywhere as a graduate. But then to be a pharmacist, you have to be on a register, just like doctors or dentists, and that gives you the license to practice as a pharmacist. So because that happened, and because the profession is held in a high regard, the company had to do something. So they then wrote to the regulatory body that controls pharmacists, because we have code of conduct, and I have broken the code of a conduct of a pharmacist. So they wrote to them to say, we have just fired this pharmacist because of X, Y, Z. And because it was one of the code of conduct I broke, I was then invited to come for an hearing. So for me, I mean, obviously what happened is good to lose your money financially, and then you have to go through all this rigmarole of going for hearings with the council. So I was invited to come for an hearing. I went to, so at this point, I already know this is something big. I can't just go and talk. So I had a lawyer. At this point, we've lost our job. I lost my main income. So I had to hire a lawyer to go with me to represent me. So we had the council, spoke to the guy. So whilst I've lost my job, I'd already wrote a letter to the company before I even got referred on to the council, just out of being conscientious and thinking I felt bad about what happened. I wrote a letter to them and I said, I'm really sorry about my behavior and all that. And anyways, when I went to the council, and I saw the judge was interviewing me, asking why did I do this, showing them the evidence of the kind of pressure I was in, and I showed them the kind of the remorseful letter as well.
Yes, you've been writing.
I've been writing, yeah. And the man said, yeah, you've shown enough remorse, but at the same time there is a punishment. So I was suspended off the register, so I wasn't allowed to practice as a pharmacist for 4 months. So I couldn't earn as a pharmacist. I couldn't, so it got to a point where I still had to look for a job. Because I was the only earner in the family. My wife
was still in school.
Full-time student. So I got a job, luckily, with my degree. And it was.
What degree was it? Obviously,
it was a pharmacy degree. Yeah, it was a pharmacy degree.
So what sort of job did you get?
Yes, a good question. So I got a job with this company that does all this. It was a government organization, actually.
Okay.
They do drug regulation. Okay. So for every drug to be licensed and things like that, would have to go through them, and then it gets licensed in the UK. Okay. So there's an aspect of the company that does, or I keep calling it company, it's an organization that does side effects and side effect reporting. So I worked with that department, we call it yellow card, so reporting the yellow card and things like that.
So for this job, you didn't need your pharmaceutical.
I didn't need the pharmacy degree. Yeah, I'm sorry. I needed the pharmacy degree, but not the pharmacist. Not the pharmacist qualification.
Correct. For it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I did. Of course, it wasn't as well paying as the pharmacist job, but then he paid the bills. So yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that was half of it.
Now we've reached half of it.
So that was half of it. So when that happened,
there's more coming.
There's more coming.
Oh my goodness!
When all of this happened, of course I've lost my job, which was my first main source of income, and all of us, I had to present myself in front of this council. And then obviously it had a financial implication. I couldn't practice as a pharmacist anymore.
They removed you from the register.
I was removed suspended from the register.
Suspended.
Suspended for a while.
Yeah.
And all of that was bad enough. But then, because it's as a pharmacist, you are somebody that should be of repute in the community.
Yeah.
So when I was having my hearing at this time, I didn't know this at the time. There was somebody from the media in the room. And they picked up the story.
Paparazzi.
Exactly. They picked up the story.
Oh, my goodness.
And for me, this is, obviously, you've had all this implication of you losing your job and everything, and that does impact you. and then the story got written in the local newspaper as well. So I was in the local newspaper
Was
to
this in
say.
Scotland? Was this in England?
No, it was in
It's in
England. It was in
England.
England. Yes, I was in the local newspaper to say the pharmacist lost his job for X, Y, Z. That kind of thing. And I didn't at this point. I didn't know a story was written. I was still moving on with my life, probably going on to this job I had to do. And then all of a sudden, I got a text from a friend of mine to say, "Is this you I've just read in the paper?" And I was like, "What paper?" And then she said, "I've just, told me the name of the paper." And I was like, "Oh gosh, so this happened." And I was like, "Oh my."
Oh my
So at this
goodness.
point, there was, you've lost your job and you have the public disgrace as well that's come from it, and the shame. And so that happened. And then a few weeks after that, the journal, the pharmacist journal, picked up the story as well. But to be fair though, the pharmacist journal, the story they picked up, because any pharmacist that read my story felt like it was a bit harsh.
Harsh.
The treatment was harsh,
Yeah.
So they picked up the story in the sense that this is what's happened to the pharmacist. So there was a outcry within the pharmacy community thinking, oh, why did this guy
Go through all
go
this.
through
Yeah.
all this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was all of that,
Oh,
and then the
okay.
company had to
Okay.
kind of like come and defend
Oh,
themselves as well.
okay. Oh,
But
really?
but the man in the middle of all of this, the fact that your name is on there,
Dragged
exactly,
down.
dragged
Yeah.
down, because you're
Yeah.
thinking to yourself, oh, all my colleagues now know that I've lost my job, and I
How
mean,
was that moment like for you? You're just running
yes,
through this thing. I know you've gotten over it, but
yeah,
pick up on, you definitely would have had very low moments.
Yes.
I don't know, probably cry. I mean, it's okay for a man to
No.
cry, but how did you actually cope, in such, when you were actually at your lowest moment? I mean, I like the way you've progressed with it. The beginning,
Yeah.
thinking that was the end.
Yes.
You went halfway.
Yes.
And then there's still more still coming, your name being dragged. How did you, maybe at night sleep? What did it do to you
Yeah.
mentally, psychologically, all that? How was that for you?
Dr. Lawani, that's a fantastic question. I think what we'll have to think about is, you mentioned when we started this, you said, your ideology, what stares you, and that's how I interpret your ideology. And it's really important that our background plays into who we are. So
That's true.
when I was going through all of this, so for example, I grew up in this culture. So I told you I grew up in the Yoruba culture. I grew up in Nigeria, and we don't talk about depression. You don't talk about anxiety, and those kind of things.
Mental health
In the
and
mental
all
health,
that,
we
so
don't
you
talk
don't
about
know
any
it.
of those.
If you don't know about it,
No.
don't know about it.
I clearly remember, when all those letters were coming through and I have to be going for the earrings and stuff like that. I remember days where I couldn't even put I told you I found a job, went for a job. Days where I could not get out of bed, where I felt like, what have I done? You're sort of replaying all of this back in your head. Like, what have I done? I remember even one of the appeal letters, even though I knew what I wanted to write, I couldn't stop myself to write. It was my wife that was like, okay, tell me what you wanted to write, and then kind of like typing it out for me. So for me, how did I get myself through? I mentioned the fact that I did not mention this to my family when it started. That was a mistake. I think I should have said
support. You needed to get support.
I needed the support. I should have said it earlier. Because I think it was one of those things I think, oh, if I tell people, how are they going to take me? But then we don't think about love. Love is something that we can't explain. When people love you for who you are, no matter what you do. And for me, my family was that to me. My family loved me no matter what I was. Whatever, the love is there. So, but I hid that away from them. I didn't let them know in time. And I think if I'd, kind of like, this is what I was going through. And I understand it now because I've got my own kids and I've told them there's nothing you can do that will make me love you less than you do. Yeah. So I think that's really important. I could have shared it with more people. I'm grateful for my wife because if not for her, I think the period would have even lasted longer. Yeah. So I was getting love from there, but I could have shared it with my immediate family.
Did you? Yeah. So yes, I get the fact that you were receiving love from certain people, your family. Did you ever face judgment, criticism from people that you know? So not from the company or from the council, but like from friends, people that did you face any criticism of any kind?
That's a really, really good question. I faced judgment at the point of interviews.
Okay.
One of the things that got me through, I'll probably say, is friendship. So I have a very close knit of friends. I'm not the kind of person that I don't have many friends. So the friendships I have are true friendships. So even
Quality over quantity.
exactly. So I had quality friendship. So for me, even when I was beating myself up to say, I can't believe I've done this, because if you're a certain kind of person in terms of how you build yourself, and you do some things and you think, I really can't believe I did that, and they will be the one to remind me that is not you.
Yeah.
The you would know is not that kind of person. So no matter what the paper writes about you, or no matter what the public thinks about you, the you we see is the you of integrity, the you of the core values. They will share those with me, and these friendship are my Christian friends. So they did not look at me through the lens of my failure.
Yeah.
They look at me through the lens of a friend that is down. Let's try and pick him up, and I really appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
important. That's
indeed.
very
Yeah.
important. Support and friendship. Okay. So towards the end, apart from the friendship, you said the support, the love you got from your family, how else did you manage to survive that period?
Yes. So I always, when I think about this, because I've reflected on the incident a lot, I always say the three key things I took away from it was three B's, I call them. So be patient with yourself. So the patience for me involved a moment of reflection, thinking to myself, why did it happen? Because this happened. I cannot deny the fact that it happened. So I had to take myself back. Why did it happen? And like I said to you before, for me, it was definitely the pressure. The pressure from without in terms of, you're not delivering this result, and the pressure from within in the sense that I wanted to portray an image. So I put myself under pressure, but then I did let the company or the manager put me under pressure. That was my decision. I could have reacted differently to those situations, or could have said, I don't appreciate these targets you guys have set. It's ridiculous. I cannot meet them. All of those things. I could have done all of that. I didn't do any of them, but I just said, I'm going to take it into my own. So yes, so I was patient with myself in terms of reflection. So I reflected about it. The second thing was I be kind, so I was kind to myself. So after my reflective moments, I had to be kind to myself. So like I said, I was in a position where I needed to earn money, so I need to pick myself up somehow. I needed to go for interviews. I need to put myself out there. There was no point locking myself away. Or one could say maybe because of the kind of pressure I was under, so I needed to provide for my family, so I needed to work. So I didn't have time to sort of think about just lock myself away because I needed money to live.
Yeah.
But then being kind to yourself means that you do what is necessary. I think the way depression sometimes holds us back is locks us away. And if we let it do that to us, we will be locked away for a long time, or we could be locked away for a long time. So it's just kind of like just getting yourself out there, doing what needs to be done. So I was doing what needs to be done. I was still kind of like socially active and economically active. So social activity is a really good thing. So I would still go to church on a Sunday. I was mixing with people. I was filling myself with, things that I needed to hear, what my spirit needs to hear. And all of those things are being, but for me, that's the kindness to myself because I needed to refresh my soul. So I did that. And then the third one is B. The third B is love yourself. Be loving to yourself. What does love yourself mean? It's different for everybody. So it could be you just going for retail therapy. So it could be just calling a friend up, going out for a nice meal. So be loving to yourself. Just know that there's still somebody. Look at yourself from the third person perspective. Like, how do I treat this guy? What makes this guy happy? Do that to yourself. So be loving to yourself.
I could add a fourth B.
Yes.
Maybe the fourth B would be encapsulated within be kind. I think also be patient, be forgiving. So that
correct.
could also be within be patient. Because you need to forgive yourself. You could go on and on with life, be involved in the community, be involved in social groups, but if you keep judging yourself, there's this voice that will keep like, you did this,
you did,
you ruined it, how could you, and you just keep judging yourself.
Correct, exactly.
It's difficult to move past that.
Indeed.
So I think learning to, forgive yourself as well. Also as you're being patient. Is important.
And that's part of love, isn't it? Because a true love is forgiving, so the way to love yourself is forgive yourself through it all. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay, so what in terms of resilience, do you think, because when you were talking about the company had given you a target and you were, thinking you could achieve it, I thought about the fact that one might argue that is you trying to be resilient, not giving up. You're giving this target and you're going to, achieve it and push ahead. But would you say that sometimes um, being resilient could work against you or could be negative in some sense if you don't know when to actually cry for help or when you need to ask for support?
That's a really good
I just
question.
want to pick your brain on that
Yeah.
because I know some people,
Yes.
would argue, being resilient is never giving up,
No, no.
keep showing up, you can do it, you can achieve it. But do you think at some point
No.
you need to ask for support or
Oh,
for help?
indeed. I think it all boils down to what do you define resilience to be?
That's a very good one.
Yeah,
So
so
now how do you define?
that
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
and it's really important what we define resilience to be. So I think in a generation now, and I'll probably say my generation, if you mention the word resilience, it's more it has a negative connotation to it because
Okay.
for people see resilience as though you keep going,
Keep
going.
going.
You
Yeah.
don't know when to give up.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not resilience. That isn't that for me anyway. That is not resilience. If I was going to define resilience, I'll probably say resilience is the necessary process in the making of a person. So you cannot, so resilience is the necessary process in the
In the
making of
making
a
of a
person.
person.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
That's
life comes
interesting.
with storms,
Yeah.
and you cannot negate the effect of storms. Now, you look at resilience in the sense of your ideology. So what does this human think this human needs right now to respond to a particular situation that is coming as a thing that I need to build up resilience against. So for example, in my situation, resilience is speaking up to say I am under pressure, and for me to meet this target, I need to go against my ideals. If I go in against my ideals to meet the targets, then that's not right. So resilience is being able to speak up. You're owning, like, are you giving yourself a voice?
Yeah.
That is being resilient.
Integrity, I guess.
Integrity,
Yeah. Having
exactly.
integrity.
Integrity is resilience. So yeah, that's how I define resilience. But for sometimes you have to go through to become more resilient.
Yeah. So one last question,
Yes.
or one last, thought. If if you're supposed to like give someone advice, based on what you've gone through, and you see someone maybe going through something similar or probably even worse, what would that advice be?
Somebody going through something similar is, like I said,
So thinking about their
yeah,
career
yeah.
is coming to
Oh
ruins.
yes, yeah. Think about your life as a tree. It's life is seasonal. So we're in the UK, we're lucky we can see a tree in the summer, in the winter. It comes to the winter, the leaves fall off. But then you come to the next year, and then there's another season that's come, and the leaves are coming through. The fact that the leaves are falling off doesn't mean the tree is not growing. So when we go through hard times and you think like everything is falling apart and you don't know what's going on, there is a making that is happening. Your roots are going deeper so that you become this big tree. So when things are falling down, don't think you're falling behind. You're far from it, because the growth for me is the internal growth.
Yeah.
When the internal growth happens, then we see the external. So that season, life is in season. That season will go
Absolutely.
away,
Yeah.
and there's a season coming, and it's a
Absolutely.
blossoming season. So my advice is don't look at your current season. There is a better season coming ahead.
Thank you so much, Bolade. Thank you
It's a
so much.
pleasure.
And
It's a pleasure.
it's a pleasure to have you as a guest on this. And I wish you all the very best and safe journey when you go. You came from all the way from
From Stratford,
England.
yeah, from
I don't
England,
know where that
yes,
is. That's
yeah.
far. How many hours is it?
Well, we flew in, so
Oh,
we'll be flying
okay.
back
Okay.
after this. But yeah, no, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Yeah.
much. And that's all we have for you today. Remember to always stay educated, stay enlightened to become empowered. I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.